first time at the LINNC meeting. It's something I've always wanted to come to. It's an incredible experience from a technology point of view, from a mix of cases, from a learning point of view. It's really been eye-opening for me. As you know, we face a generation of younger people who incredibly adept at accessing online education, and video education is an important part of that. I hope everybody's enjoyed the meeting as much as I'm enjoying it. It really has been a great education for me, so I hope it's the same for everybody else. I think we have a lot more evidence in the last few years than we did before, which is excellent. When it comes to stroke, we probably have some of the best evidence that we've had in any field in neurointervention. But for other treatments, where the disease is more rare, I think the evidence is still lacking.
So you're speaking about certain treatments of aneurysms.
Correct.
And I saw that in what I could see is that the cases and the trials remain very small. I mean, you're not looking at wide groups of patients, are you?
No. So if you look at cardiology, for instance, there's always thousands of patients in the trial, and it's possible to do that because it's a burden of disease that's large enough to do those kind of trials. Our trials are never going to be that big because the diseases we treat are more rare. It makes it hard to collect the evidence. Because it's challenging doesn't mean it mustn't be done. And stroke proves that. I mean, we started out with small trials, couldn't show differences, but as the technology got better, as the techniques evolved, we were able to show big differences in relatively small numbers of patients, and that's what we have to aim for in everything that we do. I think it's important to scientifically establish that what we do is benefiting patients. Undoubtedly, in some parts of the world, there's enough trained neurointerventionists to cope with the workload, or close enough. In large parts of the world, like where I work, in low and middle income countries, there's definitely not enough trained people and probably never will be. So we have to look at different strategies of how we train people and who we allow to do the interventions.
So would you turn, if necessary, to, for instance, an interventional cardiologist to do a mechanical thrombectomy?
So I don't feel protective over what we do. I think anybody who's properly trained should be able to provide the service. What constitutes proper training is the difficult discussion. And we've worked hard on trying to define that. We're still working on it. And I think it's going to evolve over the next year or two. But it's really important that we do come up with guidelines and plans to train people. Otherwise, it's going to happen in an uncontrolled way, and that would be bad for patients. So it's clear to me that good training means you not only are competent to do the procedure, but you have an idea of what outcomes should be. If you're not properly trained, you become satisfied with a lower level of care because you don't know any better, and that's what we have to avoid.
We mentioned TAVI earlier, and one of the interesting things about TAVI is that it created a new reorganization of the workspace within the hospital, what we call the heart team. I've heard people talk about creating a similar brain team. Do you see that as one option emerging to take on this huge load of patients?
I think we've already done that in many areas of neurointervention, probably ahead of everybody else, in that we work in teams of neurosurgeons, neurointerventionists, neuroradiology, and of course anesthesia, because a lot of our work involves anesthetics as well.